Welcome to it's not a How About the Huskies episode, a very special episode on this channel. It's not under an official show we have either Shooting Stores or How About the Huskies. It's just an NBA mock draft. I feel like we're all big college basketball fans. We're also big NBA fans. The two worlds are colliding this week on Wednesday, tomorrow. When you're seeing this video, the NBA drafts, I know we'll speak about our Huskies real quick. We're gonna have a few of them drafted, Clingan, Castle. It's gonna be fun to see where we put them all in this draft. There's three of us, of course. I didn't introduce us as I usually do. I'm Connor, joined by Matt and Andrew. We're really just gonna go alternate the three of us making picks. I'm gonna have the first pick. Matt is gonna go second. Andrew third, and down the line 4, 5, 6. I shouldn't have to explain that. You guys should know how we're doing it. But I think we can just get right into it. The Atlanta Hawks have the first pick in the NBA draft. There's a lot of ways you can go with this, which isn't always the case. In the draft, there's no clear like a Zion and Anthony Davis, a guy who you know is going number one 3 years in advance from like his high school clips or whatever. It's tough. There's Sarr, Reese, Clingan, even Reed Sheppard, a lot of guys. I feel like there's legitimately four guys this could be. I feel like, I mean, you look at the Hawks, you guys should be able to see what we see as well. This Fanspo, it has the current roster. You see Trae Young, DeJounte Murray. I mean, they have the guards. Clint Capella's getting up there in age. I'm looking at a big man here. And as much as I feel like it might not work out for them, I will be selecting Alex Sarr with the first pick.
I mean,
And that
yeah.
means that means they get their power forward and they take a Frenchman away from the Spurs. Big thing. What do you say, Andrew?
You just got to look at it like Connor said, like there's no really real big need in them for this except probably a center. And if you're going to take one, you're going to draft Sarr because he can play both power forward and center. So I think that he's definitely going to be the number one overall pick.
I was between him and Clingan, honestly, for a while. I mean, I'm not the highest on Reese. We'll see where he falls. I'm not the highest on him. I feel like Clingan, you know what you're getting with him. Sarr, you don't know what you're getting, but it could be a lot better than Clingan. So I feel like the potential is there. That's why I had him at one. So Matt, moving on to you, the Washington Wizards second pick. What you got?
Washington, the Washington Wizards. I mean, they could use help at almost every position. I remember we did a mock draft, for our UConn guys, and I think I had Klingon at like 3 or 4. I don't think I had him here. But as time has gone on, part of me, feels like maybe it would be a smart decision between him, Reece, maybe some other guys. They obviously have like their two main pieces who are just like below average stars in a way, Jordan Poole and Kyle Kuzma, both, like slightly above average, not quite the guy, but um, I think they kind of throw a curveball here, and I think they go with Buzelis. I mean, the Wizards have never been a team to kind of follow consensus. If you look over the past 5 years, all their superstars have been Jordan Poole, Kristaps Porzingis, and they love the foreign guys they obviously drafted after a few years ago. I think they feel a little weird on Reece because him and Sarr, it's that constant debate, and a lot of teams have their doubts on these guys. So I think they kind of go outside the box there, and I think they take Buzelis at 2.
That is not the direction I thought you were going there, but I can certainly see it. I feel like the Wizards, they're a team, unlike the Hawks, who are actually a decent team. They were fighting until the end to make the playoffs. The Wizards were very, very bad and are deserved to have that second pick. They probably deserved to even have the first pick, them or the Pistons. But they need help everywhere after trading Bradley Beal. You mentioned Poole. He's really inconsistent. Kuzma probably won't be there much longer. I feel like if you're the Wizards, you draft who you think is the best player available. It could be Buzelis. I certainly see the fit, especially if you trade a guy like Kuzma. You have an opening at that power forward slash kind of wing position. So again, not where I thought you were going, but I like it.
I mean, yeah, that was an interesting pick for sure. Also, where I thought he was going, but I mean, I can see it honestly, but my pick, the Houston Rockets. You have to look. Obviously, you guys can see the screen. You got to look at the money here. Dylan Brooks is signed long term. Van Vliet, he's obviously going to start with Smith and Green as well. So I think they're going to take our guy. I think Donovan Clingan's going to get picked third overall going to the Rockets because Steven Adams is also coming off an injury, I believe. He's pretty old, and this Rockets team, I think, is one key player away from being a good team in the West. So I think they're going to go with Clingan, and I think that's going to be a good pick for them. I think Houston's going to be real good if they select Clingan with that pick.
Steven Adams, you mentioned, he's a quality center. He's a good big man, but he has an expiring contract, and I just don't think he's the center of the future for the Houston Rockets. I think it would also be awesome to kind of have Clingan in for 1 year under a guy like Steven Adams with 10 plus years of experience to learn from. It just makes too much sense.
Yeah, I mean, Clingan could help any of these teams. He's a shot blocking center. You know what you're getting, like I said. The Rockets, I mean, you have Jabari Smith and Jalen Green. You don't really need a point guard. I guess they could go a point guard like a Reed Sheppard or even Castle, but locking up center down low is important, especially some of the great centers in the NBA. So no complaints there. I was hoping he'd fall to this next pick, number 4 with the Spurs to pair him at Wemby, but fortunately that wasn't the case. So San Antonio still has to make a pick. They have 4 and 8 in this draft, 2 top 10 picks. We all know the story here. They have Victor Wembanyama, who's going to be one of the best players in the league in a few years. He's already one of the better players in the league. But the issue they had this past year was getting them the ball. You have Jeremy Sohan running point a lot. You have Trey Jones, who's solid, but is he really an NBA starting point guard? You wonder. I don't know. There's 2 guys I'm looking at here, Reed Sheppard and Stephon Castle, and I'm personally going to go with Reed Sheppard. I mean, obviously Castle's our guy as a UConn oriented podcast, but seeing what Sheppard can do, he's a much better scorer. Sure, Castle brings the defense, but you look at the Spurs, you got Devin Vassell, you got guys that are already great perimeter defenders, and obviously Wemby's a great defender himself. But the upside of Reed Sheppard, seeing what he did a few games at Kentucky last year, I feel like it's certainly worth the pick, especially you have another lottery pick 4 picks later. So say you miss on one of them, you still have another.
Yeah, this pick is Reese. I don't really think there's any question here. If he gets to 4, I don't see a world in which the Pistons end up passing on him. So I feel like that's pretty straightforward.
So you're going Reese at 5 for the Pistons.
I am going with Reese at 5.
I agree with you in a sense that if he's still there, they're gonna take him. I personally I don't really like him. I say that not watching anything, just seeing that he shoots like 29% from 3 as a guy that's an athletic wing that
Yeah.
is probably gonna have the 3 ball be a major part of his game. But the Pistons, they could certainly use that. You have a lot of good guards. You have Cunningham, Ivy, you have Jalen Duren down low, you have Ozar Thompson, who's kind of a wing. You really are missing one more solid wing in there. Could that be Reese? Who knows? But I feel like the Pistons, they're licking their chops seeing him falling to 5 in this draft.
And you
Andrew
mentioned
number
I was gonna say you mentioned the shooting about like him being sort of a raw shooter. I mean, look at the Finals MVP coming out of Cal. Jaylen Brown wasn't necessarily known for his jump shooting. It was definitely a work in progress. So, I mean, we've seen it happen before, and I think with a talent like him, it could definitely be developed.
moving on here, number 6, the Charlotte Hornets. Great fans of our UConn Huskies. Andrew, who they taking?
I'm trying like this is such a weird pick because I think our 1 through 5 is pretty good. Obviously, we're not professional NBA analysts here, but I think that 1 through 5 is pretty good. But if you're Charlotte and you're looking at this starting 5, your point guard and your shooting small forward are perfectly fine. But there's a weird little gray area with the shooting guard and the big position. I personally think that this is where Dalton Connect goes. Honestly, this team doesn't really have a shooter. If you look at those 5 guys, obviously anybody that plays in the NBA can shoot the ball, but I think they're going to end up taking Dalton Connect from Tennessee here with the 6th pick.
I like that. I'm kind of higher on Connect. I feel like the most, probably a lot of people a little reluctant on him because he played 4 or 5 years in college, but he's a guy, another like Clingan, you know exactly what you're getting. He's going to be a great scorer. He's going to help impact winning right away as opposed to one of these projects. So yeah, he's probably a top 5 prospect for me personally. If I were to make like a big board, I really like that for Charlotte, and brings us to this next pick. Portland Trailblazers, and there's certainly an interesting name still available. I'm not sure what direction I'm gonna go here. You see, they have DeAndre Ayton, they have Jeremy Grant. They're pretty much set in the backcourt with Simon, Scoot Henderson. They don't need a guard. They're really lacking in that front court. DeAndre Ayton, sure, he's locked up a couple of years. Jeremy Grant, there's rumors they might trade him. So I'm looking in the front court. I'm not seeing too many like star options left right now. So I'm gonna go a guy that maybe could play some front court. He's 6'6", Cody Williams, the brother of Jalen Williams. He's a guy he could play small forward in the league, no doubt. I mean, he's lengthy. He's a guy who was not the greatest in college for the seventh overall pick, but I mean, I feel like Portland, they're set at so many spots. They could certainly use a guy that could maybe grow into a great scorer. I don't know. It's just, I like that fit, seeing he's still on the board.
And I feel like right here with the Spurs, they need the second Frenchman. They really do. I think they're going to take Salon or Saloon. I don't know how you pronounce it, but I feel like it's just a perfect fit right there. Slide him next to Wembanyama. They didn't get that first Frenchman uh, before, so I feel like you take Reed Sheppard and you kind of fix your backcourt a little bit. I think here they give Wemby a partner in crime, so to say. I think they kind of boost up that front court with Solon, and I think he has the possibility to be. People always say who's the Giannis of the draft, and this guy is probably the consensus vote for breaking out.
I can see that. I mean, Keldon Johnston's been playing a lot of four for them. I just saw on this sheet here, he's 6'5". So getting a guy with more size to go next to Wemby, especially if they miss out on a guy like Clingan early on, I feel like that's certainly a necessity. Moving on to pick 9, the Memphis Grizzlies. Andrew, what you got for them?
This is going to be a big Twitter overreaction at this point in the draft, especially because of what teams we're fans of. Because people are going to see that Castle hasn't been drafted yet. And honestly, I'm looking at this team starting five. I mean, we got point guard, shooting guard, shooting guard, point guard. So they're pretty guard heavy. But like Connor mentioned, there's not really that many bigs in this draft. Like I'm looking through the thing right now. It's just this is a really weird pick. I genuinely don't know what Memphis is gonna do, but I'm gonna say that they're going to go with Ron Holland out of the G League Ignite.
Interesting. I've seen a lot of people say that this spot here, Zach Edey, probably the earliest he could go, because I feel like the Grizzlies, they're not a lottery team, realistically, if at full strength with John Morant, Desmond Bain, Jaren Jackson. They just had a lot of injuries and we'll call it unfortunate circumstances surrounding their point guard. But they're going to be right back in the thick of it, trying to compete for a championship next year. Ron Holland, I like that pick. I personally, I don't know what I would have done there, honestly. Maybe reach out to Edie, but Holland certainly a guy. He played with the Ignite, so he has that experience in the pros. So I like that. Bringing us to 10th pick now, the Utah Jazz. And I'm looking at those team needs. I see Severe point guard. Severe's not good. They're pretty set everywhere else. Center, I mean, they're all right, but I don't think they reach for Edie or Filipowski here. I'm looking. You see Colin Sexton, Laurie Markkinen, John Collins, all really good basketball players. Don't get me wrong. They really need a guy to get them a bucket. I feel like Rob Dillingham could come in right away. He could average like 22, 23 points per game as a rookie, just the volume of shots he could get. We saw it at Kentucky. He came off the bench and averaged what? It'll say right here. He averaged 15 off the bench at Kentucky. So he clearly is a guy. He's a little small, but I feel like he's a great shooter, great scorer. I like this pick here, and I see our guy Castle sliding. That's not really how any of us really envisioned it, but he doesn't crack the top 10 because Dillingham is headed to Utah.
I'm gonna end the slide right here for Castle. I think the Bulls would probably take him. Obviously, Alonzo Ball has been a huge question mark for years now, and I'm pretty unsure about his status and whether or not he'll play. Obviously, they just traded for Josh Giddey, but I don't think they traded for Josh Giddey with the intention of starting him. I think they kind of took him with the intention of having him as a flexible option. We saw how that went in OKC with Giddey, where teams would kind of game plan to just let him shoot and let him score. It didn't work. So I think if you get Castle and you start him next to Levine or DeMar or a combination of both, if they even keep Levine. I feel like, Castle would be a great guy to get these guys the ball, get DeMar the ball, get Levine the ball, even Vucevic the ball. They have a lot of talent. They just need a guy to wrap it all together, and I think Castle's the perfect fit right there.
I agree. I feel like the Bulls, you mentioned Levine, DeRozan, Vucevic, they might blow it up this offseason. They could trade one, two, probably not all three of those guys. That'd be a little extreme, but I feel like, yeah, you clearly you trade Caruso, who's a guy, if you're trying to win now, you really want him on your team. So clearly they're going in a little bit of a backwards direction. You draft the best player available, a guy who some mock drafts have in the top five, probably deservedly so, but yeah, I like that pick.
I also
Moving
agree
on.
with that. I think that to that team, Levine this might sound a little harsh, but he's completely useless to a team like that. And I think Castle is actually going to be his replacement. And I think Castle hit my NBA, like whatever they call that, like example player for him is a mix of DeMar DeRozan and Jimmy Butler. So I think that DeMar can teach him a lot, especially about jump shots, which he struggled with pretty early on, especially the three ball. But I think DeMar can teach him a lot. And yeah, if he's still there at 11, there's no way the Bulls pass up on him. But for this Thunder team, it's another weird one. Obviously, this isn't updated because Giddy's still there. But I'm I mean, Chet had a good year, obviously. Shea had a fantastic year at point guard. I'm gonna actually take Jacoby Walter from Baylor with this pick because it's just another like Alex Caruso is not going to start for the Thunder. They need a guy who really can make the mark early, and I think Walter's going to be that guy for the Thunder.
I like that. Restart that. I like that. I'm a guy. I'm high on that guy. He's in my top 10 probably for prospects. He's a guy that can get his own bucket. I feel like the Thunder, I mean, they traded for this pick, like they've traded for what their past, how many ever picks in the lottery and so on. So they're not a real lottery team. They're a team that really doesn't need much. They were the one seed in the West. So bringing in this
Whose
young
pick is this
talent.
supposed to be?
It says it's Houston, which I think checks out because they were around 500, didn't make it.
That's right.
Because I know their pick three for Houston is the Nets pick in that Harden trade. So I believe this is the Rockets. But yeah, I like that. He's a guy. I could easily see him going higher to. I could see him maybe fitting where I put Dillingham with the Jazz, just an explosive guard. Moving on to the 13th pick here with the Sacramento Kings, a team that was a lot, not, I wouldn't say a lot worse than we expected. We expected them to make the playoffs after the season that they had. They don't, I mean, they need some maybe forward help. Harrison Barnes getting up there in age. There's not many great forwards available. I feel like I don't know what they need because you have Sabonis, you have Fox. This is one of the toughest picks I feel like so far that we've had to make. And I'm gonna go with a guy. I mean, you have Kevin Herter. I'm gonna draft a guy who I feel like could be a lot like Kevin Herter. I'm gonna go Johnny Furphy from Kansas. You know exactly what you're getting from him. He's pretty much only gonna take threes, but he can certainly expand his game at the next level. I'm not saying he can't, but he was a great shooter for the Jayhawks. I mean, he's the prototypical one and done guy. You know he's not gonna be at Kansas for more than a year, especially when he broke out in conference play. I don't think it's a stretch to see him in the lottery, especially to a Kings team that's looking to compete.
I was thinking the exact same thing. I don't think you go overboard here and try and make a splash. Take someone like Topic, take someone like McCain or Edie. I think that's kind of just like a best fit scenario. The Kings don't need, a superstar. They need these role players. Obviously, they have Herter, but Herter has not been this consistent role player for any more than 2 years now. So I feel like bringing in Furphy kind of build up some competition. Probably going to be good for the both of them. So I mean, now is my pick. The Blazers uh took Cody Williams with the seventh pick. Uh, I mean, you mentioned they have a great backcourt. Great backcourt. It should be a great backcourt. Scoot Henderson, can kind of put some pieces together. I think everything will work out, but uh, I don't really know. I feel like at this point, if you can, if Jeremy Grant's on the block, I feel like the right pick is Tristan da Silva. I feel like he just kind of adds to their offense. I feel like if you're getting rid of Jeremy Grant, Tristan da Silva can add to your offense in other ways. He can space the floor really well. And I think that if you all the space you can get is awesome around Ayton and Williams. You don't have a big man that can shoot. So if you bring in a 6'8" shooter, I feel like that does nothing but help your team. So I think that Tristan da Silva would be a good pick here.
Keeping the Colorado boys together. Cody Williams, Tristan da Silva.
I was gonna
Yeah,
say, yeah.
da Silva, I mean, he's almost at an advantage in the sense that there's not that many other great forwards. I mean, is he a lottery pick in other drafts? Probably not. But I mean, he averaged 16 points. He can help you win right away, which I don't know if Portland really wants to do. I feel like they should want to do, seeing you have Scoot, you have Simons, Aiton, you have all the pieces to at least be a playoff team. So yeah, he's a guy who could sneakily come in and be like an all rookie second team type of guy. So I really like that pick. Moving on to 15 with the Heat, Andrew. What are the Heat doing?
Well, first of all, I love that they put that stupid picture of Jimmy Butler for his picture here. um, but they are lacking one thing, and it is a tall player. I mean, just look at the starting lineup. The tallest guy is 6'9" in the center. And I think that this is where the first Duke Blue Devil is selected. I think they go with the sophomore Kyle Filipowski. It all makes sense. I mean, there's a good chance that either Jimmy Butler or Hero or somebody is trading. I think they got to replace him. So I think it's going to be Filipowski for the Heat, which is going to be make me hate Duke and him even more.
You said tall player. I thought you were hinting at Edie there, but I like that pick a little more than Edie because you don't really have to change your offense up too much. If you have Edie and Adebayo, they're two completely different guys. Adebayo plays on the perimeter a lot more. Filipowski can shoot the ball from distance. They don't have to change up too much. And I mean, he's more of, I mean, I was gonna say he's more of a veteran guy. Edie played for 4 years, but point is, he's a guy that's gonna come in. He probably would play right away on Adebayo, honestly. So I like that pick. Can't complain there. Up next, we have Philadelphia 76ers picking with the 16th pick. They're an interesting team. I feel like I've said that a couple of times, but you got Embiid, Tyrese Maxey, Tobias Harris is getting up there. I mean, you need a lot. Being realistic, you have two stars. You have a bunch of question marks surrounding that. So I feel like you could take a guy who isn't going to be a question mark, a guy who I feel like won't be on the board in a couple nights at this time. A guy who we know well ish. I feel like you know where I'm going here. Devin Carter. He's a guy who he's going to give his all every single play. You know exactly what he's getting from him. He's not going to average what you see there 19.7, 8.7 in the NBA, but he's going to be a guy that's going to give you his all on every play. He's got great defense. He's athletic. His three ball, as ugly as that jump shot is to watch, it's a consistent ish enough to stick in the NBA. I feel like I don't think any of us would have him even in the first round a year ago today, but Devin Carter to Philly, I feel like makes sense.
My God, if Philly drafts a Fryer, I don't think
Here's
I can hate them anymore, but I can. As a Celtics fan,
here's dude. I mean, having Topic down here at 17 to me it feels a little crazy, but at the same time, it's like I don't know. But I feel like a team will just take him because he's consensus like top 10. But dude, I'm not gonna. I want. I feel like Jared McCain would be like the perfect Laker. I don't know. I'm gonna have to take Jared McCain to kind of come in and be the successor to D'Lo. Uh, him and Austin Reeves would just be the best backcourt ever. I don't know. I think that'd be a lot of fun. So I'm gonna have him take Jared McCain here.
Yeah, Topic. He does. I don't know if you guys know his injury. He does have a partially torn ACL, which is part of the reason why he's dropping. I don't know. It's definitely not the full reason. I mean, as I say he's dropping, he still could be like third on Wednesday, but I feel like all the mocks I'm seeing have him lower and lower because of that injury. Even though it's a 1 year injury, he'll be back healthy in the year after. But it's just, yeah, Jared McCain is a guy I really like. I saw him play in person at Barclays in the tournament. He was going off. He's a great shooter. I mean, will Bronny go with the 17th pick? No, realistically, I'd be shocked. But yeah, McCain, I like that. Can't complain there.
I think I'm thinking I'm gonna pull Matt here. I think this is where the slide comes to an end. I don't see a world that the Magic don't take him if he's there. He's a good player. Yeah, the injury sucks, but I feel like they've got enough guys where they're not relying on him really to uh to be their successor. But yeah, I don't see a world where the Magic don't go with Topic here.
Yeah, the Magic, it's weird. They have like a lot of dudes, but they're like, are any of them good besides Paolo? I don't know. I mean, Franz is good, but like at point guard, you have Cole Anthony, Markel Fultz. Are they the answer? I mean, maybe. It's like they're the most, I don't want to call them mid because they were a playoff team, but they have the most like mid roster. Like any of them could be good, any of them could be meh. Like Jonathan Isaac, is he good? Is he not? I don't know. So I like this. You're certainly, like I said, you have all those players that are talented. You don't need him right away, Nikola Topic. So I feel like they're real excited to see him still on the board, especially where he's mocked earlier in the offseason. But with the 19th pick here, I'm with the Toronto Raptors. I'm looking at their roster, and I feel like it's almost perfect how this lined up. Out of all these players available, there's one gentleman from Canada who is mocked at this point. I'm gonna go Zach Edey, 19th pick to the Raptors. I feel like when we did that little episode mocking our UConn guys, I asked about Edey at the end. At least one of us said this Toronto pick. I don't remember who it was, but I mean the numbers speak for itself. He's not. Does he have to be a starter right away? No. Could he be? Yes. Looking who he's going against, Jakob Poeltl, Kelly Olynyk, he could easily outmatch both of those guys and be a starter. It's just I'm just excited to see, and I don't know if excited's the word. I'm interested to see how he does in the NBA. All these people are saying he's going to be nothing. He's basically Boban. But yeah, I feel like sticking him in his home country of Canada is the perfect fit.
My bad. This is me right here. Cleveland. I feel like like Isaiah Collier. I don't see a more perfect fit, especially with the Darius Garland rumors. I feel like if you're going to ship off Garland, get a return for him, I feel like you have to take Isaiah Collier here. I feel like Isaiah Collier and Garland um, have very similar games, but I feel like Collier has a little bit of a higher ceiling. Obviously, coming out of high school, he was highly recruited, highly touted prospect. Kind of disappointed at USC, but who didn't? So I have a feeling he's going to come to the NBA, and he's just going to be a way better player than he was in college.
Yeah, I've seen the Garland rumors. It might not be the end of the world for Cleveland if they say they keep Garland one more year, have Collier play behind him and learn from him, and then you realize he's the real deal. You can ship off Garland. I feel like this is sidetracking a little bit. If Garland gets traded, which a lot of rumors say he might even on draft night, the Spurs with those two top 10 picks are a rumored spot. We didn't do any trades in this mock draft. We probably could have, but we're just gonna stick to the basic 30 picks here. But I mean, Collier, he's a guy, like you said, struggled in college, but this time last year is probably mocked to go in the top three. So he's the potential is certainly there.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think Collier's going to be a very good NBA player. I don't think he was going to USC to try to win them a national championship. I think he needed somewhere to go for a year. He knew he was going to be a one and done. And the Pelicans, Jordan Hawkins. This is a weird one. I would love for him to go Newton so that he could play with Hawkins, but obviously that's not going to happen in the first round. But you look at one position here. You look at the center position. You look at Jonas Valanciunas, who's a veteran who can teach a lot to a guy that we know pretty well from Indiana. Kel'el Ware is my pick to go to the New Orleans Pelicans because it's kind of like the Rockets. I feel like I've drafted all centers with my picks, but it's kind of like the Rockets. There's a big question mark there next to Valanciunas, and I think Ware is definitely the right guy to replace him. So I'm going to go with Kel'el Ware.
Yeah, with them, you either go center or point guard. There's a bunch of good point guards available, but I feel like you can get away with maybe having CJ McCollum for another year. He's getting up there, I feel like, in age and his talent's going down a little bit, but you can play the two. I mean, there's a clear need at center. I agree. Valanciunas he's good. Don't get me wrong, but how much longer is he going to be playing to his potential? I feel like Khalil Ware is a guy that can easily step in. He won't start right away, but he'll certainly make an impact for the Pelicans. Moving on to the Suns, one of the more unique teams in the NBA because you have KD, Beal, Booker. We'll count Nurkic in there, and then a bunch of like minimum contracts, pretty much. So they could really use some young talent. I'm shocked they even have a first round pick to begin with all those trades that they made. But I mean, they could go. I mean, outside of those big three, you really need everything. I don't know what I'm gonna do here. I mean, I'm gonna go. You know, what I'm gonna do here. I'm gonna go with a guy that can do everything. Another guy from our Big East Conference that we've seen. You may think I'm going with this gentleman right here from Marquette. I'm gonna go two slots down. Baylor Shireman. He's a guy who he's a fifth year, 22-year-old, so he's certainly been around. He's a guy who fits in with the timeline. He's not some raw freshman coming in that's gonna really need to develop with the Suns, a team that clearly with those three all-star caliber players wants to win now. He can slide in either next to Booker, in between Booker and KD, however you want to do it. But he's a guy who he's averaged 18 and a half at Creighton. He doesn't need to average that in the NBA to make an impact, similar to Devin Carter, who I picked a couple picks to go to the Sixers. But
My
maybe it's
bad.
Big East bias, but I'm going Baylor Shireman.
And I think that's a good pick there because I feel like, I mean, everybody on the Suns, obviously Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, Bradley Beal. Baylor Shireman is not going to be an offensive focus with the Suns. And I mean, they have a player literally coming off the bench who made 50, 40, 90 this year, Grayson Allen, who benefits from that and developed his shooting. And I feel like Baylor Shireman could be like maybe a bigger version of Grayson Allen, maybe not to that level, obviously, but I mean, if you slot him in there and get him some open looks, he'll definitely knock him down. But here with Milwaukee, you have some options definitely. I don't think that they look at point guard. Obviously, they have Dame. I feel like a Chris Middleton replacement could be inbound, and I think that Chris Middleton replacement is Kaishan George out of Miami. Um, Obviously, he brings excellent scoring, just kind of like Middleton did, and I feel like George with that pick is a good fit there.
Yeah, Middleton's not going anywhere probably until the end of his contract. So you're not drafting George to play right away, significant minutes. He might not even play much at all his first year, but he's one of those. I mentioned Baylor Shireman. He's a guy who he's been around college for 5 years. He's gonna make an instant impact. Keyshawn George played. He's 19 years old. Came off the bench. I'm pretty sure, or I don't know at Miami. I didn't watch much Miami. They weren't good, but he averaged 7 points per game for Miami off. I don't know why I went back to off the bench again, but point is, he's a guy. He's not gonna play much right away, probably. But I mean, the potential's there. There's a reason he's being picked in the first round, so I like it.
All right, yeah, that's a good pick for them. They're going to need a replacement for him eventually, and that shooting guard position is kind of bland. So with him and Andre Jackson, they'll be good. But New York Knicks. Now, they obviously were a playoff team, and Josh Hart went on a kind of a Linsanity run here. But obviously, you got Randall Brunson and Anunoby. Those are their big three. And I think there might be a little controversy around this pick, but I think obviously we're not going to talk about what happened with him. Everything's said that he's not guilty, but I think they're going to go Shannon here. I mean, I think that he's a very good player, can do everything, and he's a hard nosed player and someone that the Knicks could definitely use. So I think that they're going to go with Terrence Shannon here.
I mean, Shannon, he's a guy I've always liked, and the Knicks they need depth. I mean, they played six guys probably at the end of their playoff run, including two centers. So they really need that depth. And I feel like with these two first round picks, they picked with 24 taking Shannon. They're picking now for my pick, 25. I don't know if you go a similar player, but maybe take a more of an upside pick here because Shannon, he's a veteran. He's played all 4 years at college. You know what you're getting. maybe you'd go in the front court here. I'm gonna scroll down a little bit. A guy I like. I don't know how far I have to scroll. Oh, this looks bad if I scroll further. There he is, Deron Holmes the second out of Dayton. I
I was
mean,
gonna take. That's literally. I was just thinking about him.
I mean,
Because
he's
he's
listed at
ready.
39th on this
Yeah.
Fanspo. Like he's a lot better than that. He's a first round talent. He's no Obi Toppin from Dayton, who the Knicks ironically took a few years ago. But I mean, you know what you're getting out of him. He's gonna get his points. He's a very solid rebounder. I know I watched a few Dayton games. His range is there from three. Certainly something you can develop. I feel like taking him. I mean, Shannon. I feel like is gonna make more of an impact right away. But Holmes and Shannon, I feel like at 24 and 25, the Knicks have to be happy with that. Scroll back up.
What do we got again?
Unless you're taking
Washington.
someone. Yep.
Washington, Washington, Washington. I mean, it's so confusing with Jordan Poole and Kyle Kuzma because whoever they take is going to have the offense completely stolen by Jordan Poole and Kyle Kuzma. They're just like ball magnets and they just fling it up. Uh, I really don't know here. I mean, you take Buzelis second overall, you kind of fix that small forward need. What you kind of need is a guy a little bit better than Tyus Jones. And I don't know if you're gonna get that here, but Tyler Kolek is definitely a grinder. I know that. It's just like I'm not entirely sure. I'm gonna take Kolek here, just because I feel like if you take Missy, it's kind of pointless. Actually, yeah, let's go with Missy. Let's take Vest Missy.
Ooh,
Let's take Missy,
flipping.
and I think you can slot him at big man, kind of fill in that hole where Jan Mahimi is. I didn't know he was still in the league, so I think that makes sense.
Yeah, that does make sense. I mean, they kind of need a big man, and obviously, I wasn't going to take him, but the guy you were thinking about taking, I'm going to take here. I mean, Kolek's going to be good for Minnesota. They've got two centers, obviously, Anthony Edwards, and then besides that, kind of just a few scraps. So I think they go Kolek here. I think that's the right play for them.
And they have an aging Mike Conley as well
Yeah.
there, who we could definitely take a lot from. Conley, not the tallest guard in the world, so I feel like there's definitely a little transition there, but maybe in a year or two, Kola could be playing some serious minutes.
Yeah, they're both lefties. They're both, I feel like you call them pass first guys. I feel that's the perfect guy for Kolek to kind of go under his wing for a few years. Conley, like, he is getting up there. I don't know how old he is. He's probably one of the older players in the league at this point. But it's weird to say Tyler Kolek's a first round pick, but it is a weaker draft. I mean, he's certainly talented, don't get me wrong, but 6'1", averaging 15 points per game, 7 assists. Is that going to translate? Who knows? But I'm excited to see him. I'm excited to see all these Big East guys, especially at the next level. Moving on to the 28th pick, the Denver Nuggets. And if you guys watched that last episode, that wasn't our last episode. Our last episode talking about the draft where we picked up our UConn guys. I picked a UConn guy in this spot, and my opinion has not changed. I'm just gonna cut to the chase. I'm gonna scroll even further than I did for Holmes. I didn't pass him, did I? Or is he just that low? He is
There's
just
no
that
way.
low.
Oh wow, 66.
Listed at
Wow.
number 66. I mean,
That's just wrong. That's not right.
28's
Crazy.
also probably not right, but it's a lot closer than 66.
I mean,
I'm
look
going
who's right.
Tristan Newton.
Look who's like two spots in front of him. Trey Alexander. I just
I,
feel
s-
like
I
that doesn't make
I feel like Trey Alexander is 64 is low. We gotta investigate these
this
Fanspo
is this is like
rankings.
this is undrafted territory.
Yeah, there's no way Newton or Alexander goes undrafted. That again, Big East bias, but they both have potential to be first rounders. But Newton, he's a winner. Nuggets are winners. I did the whole spiel when I picked this last time. I mean, I've seen teams, I've seen mock drafts from, we'll call them the pros, having him late 50s to undrafted, which I guess is in this range that Vanspo has him. I don't see that at all. I see a guy that's gonna have an impact from day one off the bench. He's not going to start. He doesn't need to start with Jamal Murray. They have a perfect starting lineup in Denver, but just filling out that bench, which is exactly what the Nuggets should be looking to do with this pick. My last pick, because we're only doing the first round, do a little Tristan Newton.
All right, the Utah Jazz. Um,
Excited.
this is Oklahoma City's first round pick. It says, I don't know how this makes sense. Shouldn't this be Dallas? I don't know. Um, the Utah Jazz. It is true excitement. God, dude. I
They
mean, they
do
could
have
use any.
Dillingham already. You got to remember
They
that.
could use almost anything here. I really am kind of stuck. I don't really like any of these guys. I feel like
I'll scroll a bit.
Carlton Carrington's probably the best player there. But I don't know. Yeah, I guess. Oh,
You
Kevin
want
McCullough's a beast. Give him Kevin McCullough. I honestly forgot it. I don't know how we went this deep. Kevin McCullough is a senior. He won a national championship at Kansas, averaging 18 a game. I feel like he could go higher. I feel like it's just his age, even though Dalton Connect somehow cracks top 10. I feel like McCullough will have a better career than Connect when it's all said and done. I feel like you have to go with him right here. Just no matter the fit, we're at the end of the first round. So
Yeah, basically a second round pick, but McCullough, why not? I mean, you're a Jazz team. I mean, he's 18 points per game. He can do impact scoring just like Dillingham. You could have a pair of rookies going off in the scoring department in Utah. All
yeah.
right. Closing out the first round, ironically, the Boston Celtics, Andrew. Who are the Celtics picking up to round out the first?
This is gonna be this is a weird pick because this is my favorite NBA team.
They do need a
And
lot of help. Don't get me wrong.
oh
A
yeah,
lot of gray
they do.
areas.
I'm looking like at like low on the list. It's just good lord. But you know what? There's like no center here. I would take. I mean, he's 6'8", Bona from UCLA.
I don't know. The Celtics always draft foreigners.
Yeah, that
Like when they're late in the first round, I'm just pitching in as a Celtics fan. It's not like my opinion
you know
matters,
what?
but
Let's take Ulrich Kamoshi from Cameroon with this pick.
that would definitely happen.
That's a
He looks
Celtics
like a
pick.
Celtic.
That would definitely
That
happen.
would be
And
a
he's wearing
Celtics pick.
green. Look at that. That's perfect.
It's like
But
he
yeah, that
knew.
is a Celtics pick. I mean, Jershon Yabusele with the what,
Oh,
16th
on
pick? Good lord.
Is
Ante
that what you're going
Zizic.
for here with Ulrich here?
They always
Well,
do it.
That's it. That's
Yabusele
his
was not
comp.
good, but yeah.
Yabusele.
That's the comp.
I will say though, if he's there at 54, we're taking Spencer or wherever
Ulrich.
our second rounder is.
I'm looking for him on
Spencer's like
NBADraft.com.
47.
I don't even think he's in this mock draft. Oh, here he is. 52 to Washington.
Spencer?
They have a pro comp to him. It's Channing Frye.
I can certainly see that.
I would be okay with Channing Frye at 30. I don't know about y'all, but
Oh, yeah, yeah.
I thought you were talking about
I mean,
Cam. But
nah,
you
or
said
Rich
Channing Frye
Kamocha.
comp. I was like, hold
Nah.
up.
I wonder who
But
they have, Cam, though. You could keep going. I'm just gonna look.
yeah, we're kind of going off track here. I'm sure you guys want this to end, but yeah, that's our formally pick Ulrich. That's our mock draft. I feel like it went well. I think we got every pick right personally. It's gonna go exactly this way. We'll recap. I'll go really quick. I'm not even say the team. Sarr, Buzelis, Clingan, Sheppard, Resacher, Connect, Williams, Saloon, Holland, Dillingham, Castle, Walter, Furphy, De Silva, Filipowski, Carter, McCain, Topic, Edie, Collier, Ware, Shireman, George, Shannon, Holmes, Missy, Kolek, Newton, McCullough, and our good friend Chomch, however you want to say it.
Ulrich.
We'll call him
Ulrich.
Ulrich. So yeah, that'll do it for this. Certainly a more different episode than you're used to. Like I said, this isn't an official episode of our How About Them Huskies podcast, but I love mock drafts. I love doing mock drafts with other people. So this is a perfect. I'm glad you guys. It's a little late. I'm glad you guys are able to do this. But yeah, I mean, I would say look out for the next mock draft, but that'll be in like 12 months. So I guess stay tuned for our next How About the Muskies episode. We'll do one after the draft, recapping where all our guys ended up. But yeah, that's all we got. Thanks for watching.